Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. My name is Nick.
Amine.
Today we're going to talk about some of our favorite albums from a band that I've liked for a long time. I'm pretty sure you've liked for a long time also.
They're somewhat popular. I think people have heard of them.
They might have heard of them today. We're going to be talking about albums by the Beatles. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you click on that link down below. Go check out the Vinyl Den Facebook group. It's just a cool place to continue the music conversation. There's also a link there for the Vinyl Den merch page where we got t-shirts and sweatshirts. There's a link for the Spotify and Apple Music playlists where every week we're just compiling music that we're talking about here on the channel, put it together on a nice playlist for everyone to enjoy. And there's also a link for the Vinyl Den Patreon page. If you want to support the show, it's always greatly appreciated. You can support the show for as little as $1 a month. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time we release new episodes. So I guess the funny thing is, I wasn't a huge Beatles fan when I was growing up. It was probably my late teens, I think, is when I started getting more into their music.
For me, they were, classic rock stations. Detroit got 94.7 in 1987.
Yeah.
It's like the first classic rock station. So the Beatles were always played, and I always liked the music, but none of my parents were like huge Beatles fans. Like my dad is, but not like he was other stuff. So I wasn't as introduced to it on a formal level, just through the radio. And I always liked Beatles songs, but it wasn't something I gave much thought of until like my teens.
Yeah, I think it was probably the White Album. It was probably my like entry into a lot of the Beatles music.
Yeah,
especially like that later period of the Beatles. I was I was probably always more of a fan of their earlier stuff, but I do like, I think the Beatles. I think we were talking before we started recording, but I don't think the Beatles have made a bad album.
No,
so
not at
they're all good. But today we're going to be talking about some of our favorites.
Yeah.
So probably one of my favorite albums. I'd probably put this in my top 3 for Beatles albums. And that's Help. Of course, Help, a lot of people know it just from the movie.
I love the movie.
The movie's fantastic.
Yeah.
For
cracks me up every
time. The period
time I watch
it was recorded, I think is a really good movie for what it was. It didn't have like the campiness. It did, but it wasn't as kind of campy as like some of the stuff that like Elvis was doing in the late 50s and things like that.
Or even what the Beatles ended up doing later on with their psychedelic stuff.
Like
absolutely. Magical Mystery Tour.
But
the movie.
Help is a great album from beginning to end. Yesterday is probably my favorite Beatles track. It's definitely my top 3 or 4 Beatles songs. So that's it's probably a big reason why I love this album. But it's an album that I can put on beginning to end.
Oh, yeah.
It's just it's one of those easy listening albums. It's something you can just kind of listen to.
It's like
whenever.
Comfort album.
Comfort album. That's a great way to put it.
For me, one of my favorites is Magical Mystery Tour, as I mentioned before. Oddly enough, I like this better than Sgt. Pepper, and that might be blasphemous to some people, but
probably.
Don't get me wrong, Sgt. Pepper's fantastic, but this one has a couple of my favorite songs of all time, Beatles songs of all time, Penny Lane, and Strawberry Fields. Yeah, those are actually some of the first Beatles songs I ever heard, so I think that might be why I have a connection to this album, above and beyond, say, like Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
And the movie's goofy as all get out.
It is.
As a companion piece, I would much rather listen to the album than watch the movie, but the album is fantastic.
I will say that I think the White Album was probably, like I said, my like entry into that later period of the Beatles. And this album was probably the second one. So, because this has a ton of tracks on there that everyone knows.
Yeah.
It just obviously with the Beatles, all their albums were widely popular.
Absolutely.
And
they've got radio play for every album that they have.
Absolutely.
So there's bound to be something on every one of their albums that's going to stand out. But like I said, for me, Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields, and another song which I'll get to in the next album are the 3 that really stand out that caught me when I was younger, that led me to really want to investigate the Beatles beyond that in my teens.
Yeah. Sticking with the Beatles movie theme, I guess, is A Hard Day's Night. It's kind of along the same lines as Magical Mystery Tour and Help. It's just a great album, and it's an album that the movie is equally, I think, as good as Help. I was never a huge fan of the Magical Mystery Tour movie.
No, I would take these movies over that any day.
But I think I think what really helped the Beatles early on in their career were those movies.
Yeah.
Obviously they're making good albums, but the publicity that they got from those movies really kind of helped push their musical career.
I think also not taking themselves too seriously early on kind of allowed them to take themselves way more seriously later
on,
without going too far into a level of pretentiousness. You know. So for my next favorite, it's Revolver. What can you say? It's got a lot of great songs on it.
I'll give you a little hint. Every Beatles album
has a lot of great songs
on it.
But as I was saying with the last album, this has a song on it that, again, in those early days when that classic rock station was first coming around, that a song that was being played, it was Eleanor Rigby, which is on this album, and that was a great standout track. Song for me as a young kid. In my, say, 5 to 10 years old, hearing that song on the radio, along with Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields, really kind of grabbed me and made me want to examine a lot more once I was old enough to kind of start doing that. So Revolver it was actually the first Beatles album I bought on CD.
Oh, really?
Yeah. White Album was the second. It's usually the other way around. The White Album's always the first one. Revolver is the first one I bought on CD.
So for my last album, I go back and forth between this and Let It Be as my favorite.
Yeah.
And that is Abbey Road. I'm sure a lot of people out there, Abbey Road's probably, I think for most people, it's definitely in their top three. It's normally Abbey Road, Let It Be, or the White Album. Tend to be a lot of people's favorite three.
And I would say between those two, I'm probably going to fall more on the Let It Be side, but I can completely understand either direction.
Yeah. Me too. I guess I kind of go back and forth. It depends on the mood I'm in. But Abbey Road is just, I think it was a great end to the career. I know it wasn't the last album that was released, but Abbey Road was actually recorded after Let It Be, even though they were released in opposite.
Right.
So this is the album that when I listen to it, it makes me kind of think, of what could have been after Abbey Road. I know we did an episode not too long ago about that, and this is kind of the album that makes me think about that, because it's an album that, there's not a bad track on there. No. And there's a couple of the tracks on here that people aren't normally very familiar with that are also incredible tracks. It's just, this is one of those albums, I think in the last couple of Beatles albums, people, of course, know the big hits off of it, but there's definitely a lot of deeper cuts on these albums that, if you're not familiar with the album, you definitely got to go back and check it out, because it's a masterpiece at the end of their career. Yeah.
And also the album cover is as kind of basic as it is some of the basis for a lot of the conspiracy theories.
Absolutely.
About
because Paul doesn't have shoes. Paul's dead.
And he's the priest and the pallbearer, or the grave digger and the pallbearer. Yep. My dad loves that kind of stuff, so he is always pointing out all the little things and the license plate. Something about the license plate too.
If you go online, there's tons of crazy conspiracy theories about this album cover, and it's probably, as simple as it is, it's a very iconic album.
I agree, and I mean, because it's simple, I think is why it's so easy to love because of that. Well,
that's all we got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. This is just our favorites. Of course, there are a bunch of others we could have gone with. The White Album, Let It Be.
It can depend on any given day. Which ones might be higher than the others. So.
But drop us a comment down below. Let us know what you guys think. Because like I said, there's a bunch of great Beatles albums. They haven't made a bad album. But
not in our opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, not in our opinion. But let us know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all we got. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Keep on spinning. Peace.